many people just never learn to work constructively with their emotions. So what happens is when we deny or disconnect from, suppress or numb ourselves out to those emotions, they freeze up in our bodies. They don't just go away. It's time itself doesn't heal the emotional wounds. We actually have to work with those emotions.
Hey there, are you heartbroken, overwhelmed with feelings of sadness and grief? Are you ready to heal from those emotional wounds, let go of the regret, and attract love into your life? It may sound impossible, but it can be done. Today, we'll learn how from an expert in transforming suffering into fuel for personal growth. Welcome to the Perpetual Motion Podcast, where curiosity meets career excellence. I'm Dr. Mo Anderson, and I invite you to join me on a journey of intellectual tourism. In each weekly episode, we dive into inspiring and often hilarious conversations with global experts. From communication mastery to wise investments, we've got you covered. And if you're new to the show or a returning visitor, let's make this official and hit that subscribe button now. My guest today is Ben Oofana. Welcome, Ben.
Hey, Dr. Mo. Thank you for bringing me on today.
Oh, it is my great pleasure. I'm really looking forward to this topic. Hey, you've been trained with a medicine man. You've studied martial arts. Now you work in the tradition of indigenous healers. So I'm guessing there's a personal story that prompted this journey. What's your background and how did you become so interested in tribal cultures?
From early childhood, I was just drawn to Native Americans, and fascination continued to grow to my adolescence. Began to hear about the traditional Native doctors and transvisionary experiences they had and healing gifts they possessed. And at 14, I just thought to myself, if ever given the opportunity, this is what I'll do with my life. By 17, I bought a car, got taken off on my own while still in high school. My car got me as far as Oklahoma, landed in a community of predominantly Kiowa Indians.
Wow.
One of my peers he introduced me to is adoptive father. And he's saying, hey, Dad, Ben wants to go into the peyote meetings. And so I'd be sitting up in the teepee with Native elders all through the night. And that's where I met my mentor, Horace Delkai, who was one of the last surviving traditional doctors among the Kiowa tribe. Yeah.
That's pretty fascinating. Now, was it that easy? You hear about elders and, there's a lot of respect and it's not just in the, Native Americans, it's all around the world. There are groups of elders and it's generally not that easy that somebody just goes, hey, Dad, Ben wants to join. Was it really that simple? Didn't you have to do like a coming of age test or something?
For some reason, this elderly man, Jack, was receptive to me. Quite sure why. And some of the other Native elders were saying, no, don't let him come in. And Jack said, no, this one is different. Let him come in. And there were a number of people who were not so receptive, who were even a bit hostile to me. And so, it was always a bit on edge there. And then even when I saw my mentor working for the first time, and I was afraid that he would just chase me away. I was like, no, this isn't for white folks. Get out of here. And
yeah, because you're. I'm not sure we'll do a video component to this, but you're really a white folk.
That's true. Yeah, can't escape from that. No. Although I became so immersed in the culture, and I was even dancing in the powwows. I had those huge feather bustles.
Oh, man.
And I would stay in the sun as much as I could possibly stand it to try to darken myself. And I actually passed for a half-breed with...
At one point?
Shades darker because I'd stay in the sun so much. And
Gotcha.
It's not good for your skin though. But and when I approached my mentor, first, you know, he was conducting what they call a doctoring meeting, and where he was working with the young man who had some type of blood disorder,
Mm-hmm.
and I was afraid he would just again chase me out. And but that night, even before the meeting, there's one point I was with my friend, and he's like across the hall talking to his adoptive father, and he just stared at me with this intensity. Like I think he knew in that moment that I'd be his apprentice. And during the meeting itself, he was spoke to me. And I think he was just making that initial contact. And then about a year later, when my grades started to go down in college because I wasn't quite doing what I needed to do with my life,
Mm-hmm.
I approached him with with the encouragement of a few friends. I was still shaking. I was terrified that they wouldn't accept me because I'm not native.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm asking him, I said, I want to learn to do what you're doing. And he just says, what are you doing this weekend? Can you start fasting? So he has me drive my car down into the Wichita Mountains, not eating, not drinking, next 2 days and nights. That was just his way of determining if I was truly serious. And he instructed me afterwards to head out to New Mexico, where he lived on the Navajo reservation with his wife. And I began the apprenticeship, which was quite intense. I mean, a lot of these native doctors in the decades, centuries past possessed paranormal abilities, and he would transmit portions of his own healing gifts to me. And then in order to earn the right to work with these gifts of healing, you go through the vision quest, which is typically 4 days and nights. No food, no water, alone in the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition, you receive these other gifts of healing. You'll feel that this extraordinarily powerful presence, other forces coming to you or beings, and that descend into your body. And although at times I'd be on the mountain, and as that would happen, I was also having this something akin to near-death experience. I'd have all these sensory impressions, the memories, the emotions of past traumas, many of which either I had a vague recollection or had completely forgotten about. Yet it's all coming back up, and I'd be reliving those experiences. But when I went through the training, we gradually had me assisting him as he would work with his patients. But I was very scared, fearful, like lacking confidence, like not sure if I knew enough. And
you were very young too. That's understandable. You were in a different element and very young. That makes sense.
Yeah, starting at 20. And
Mm-hmm.
and after a few years of apprenticeship, I put myself back into college. I needed some time to reassemble myself, my head back together. And even then, I was just being a student. But as I was nearing graduation, I was thinking, I actually better get to work here. And as I started working with people, it was as those gifts, that power began to awaken. It was like pouring hydrogen peroxide into an infected wound. And it was that emotional wounding trauma was surfacing.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was forming attachments went through this cycle of where I began to form these attachments to women who were either disinterested, unavailable, and some instances quite abusive. And it was evoking such overwhelming, excruciating pain. And I was at a complete loss as to what to do about it. And it took some time I was just flailing in the dark initially. I had no idea what I was doing. And, over time, like, it's this learn as you go process, or learn as I go. And I was gradually working with more people, and I'd have people coming to me with a wide range of health-related issues, digestive, respiratory disorders, people that were injured in automobile accidents.
Mm-hmm.
And again, in the beginning, I didn't understand very much. Also, people with histories of emotional, physical, childhood sexual trauma, individuals who had maybe years before had served in Vietnam, still carrying a lot of that trauma. And
and I'm going to jump in as you're telling this story, because you're talking a lot about past trauma and emotional issues, but I'm assuming these people had physical ailments, that it was manifesting in that way. Is that why they were coming to you? Or because I know you deal with the emotional component, right, of an individual's life. So how is that related?
It could be either or both, because, as we're younger, our bodies are more resilient. And in many instances, the trauma hasn't necessarily manifested itself so much in the body. It's not expressed through the body. And so, sometimes I developed these abilities over the years where people would come in and they'd be standing in front of me. I'd have them stand up. After some initial dialogue, I'd scan the body, and I could feel through my hands, like, what kinds of issues they were dealing with, how they were struggling, their emotionally, kinds of emotions they were, that were predominating, sadness, or grief, or just whatever was coming up emotionally, what resources they had when there were certain deficits. And when people have gone through these various traumatic experiences, and it depends on the individual, because sometimes some individuals are able to, in a sense, contain it or compartmentalize it, push it down. And, for the most part they can be functional to varying degrees, maybe even highly functional. Other individuals, it's like the trauma could be just so overwhelming, so incapacitating. So as I would look and see, and I feel, I'm feeling through my hand, but I'm also getting this internal vision as I'm sensing into the person. And in some instances, I could see and feel how it would be incapacitating. And in those instances, you would see, like, it would affect their digestive organs, or more so with women, reproductive organs, their endocrine system. And I'm picking up on this. So in that case, it'd be more of a combination. Now, there's a lot of people that can suppress or compartmentalize, distract themselves, whatever. They could hold it down. We have these elaborate defensive structures that, and for some people, have a greater capacity to do that. And again, they compartmentalize those deeply wounding or traumatic experiences, and it's held within the body. But as people age, it's like that, those defensive structures break down, they weaken, they dissolve. And as that happens, that emotional wounding or trauma is more likely to express itself in the body. And at that point, I often see people, whether it's stroke or heart disease or, cancer. And when that occurs, they have these major health crises, then it precipitates the emergence of this traumatic wounding that they've carried for so long, because they can no longer contain it. So for me, as I work with these individuals, it's a huge mess to clean up initially. We're working with the emotional and also working with the physical. So it's a lot of work to do.
Got it. Sounds like a lot of work, but a lot of necessary work. It sometimes the hard things just have to be done. I want to go from this broader use of your skill to talking about personal relationships.
Sure.
Because that is a huge problem for so many people, with the epidemic of loneliness that extends to even being in the same household with a partner, some people are still feeling lonely. So let's start with this question. What is the effect of not healing the hurt of past relationships, like a breakup or divorce? And what can we do about it?
And a lot of that stems from the fact that we've never learned to work constructively with our emotions, and also this kind of avoidance coping tendency, like, I don't want to look at that, don't want to deal with it, don't want to go there. And so what happens is, even starting from childhood, whatever dysfunctional relationship or relational dynamics uh, that we had with our parents or caregivers, and when we don't process and we don't possess the resources, the know-how, understanding to do so. So we just tend to internalize that.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we're growing older, that makes us more susceptible to attracting other individuals who will reenact those patterns for us. And even if we grow up with parents who were very much loving, supportive, caring, there's the fact that this pervasive dysfunction is all through the culture, and
It is.
much population carries these emotional wounds along a continuum and various kinds of wounding. And so we get into a relationship and attract someone that they're not able to sustain that connection. Maybe initially there's that excitement, that anticipation, all that, but then conflicts arise, as they invariably do. And because relationships are going to reflect back to us, they're like a mirror. They reflect back to us the core issues that we need to be able to address. And the fact that a lot of people not willing to do so, many will sacrifice the relationship rather than face themselves. And as we move in from childhood into our teens and start forming romantic attachments and form relationships and into our 20s and on, and especially when they're younger, there's this naivete. We're vulnerable. We just don't understand quite what we're doing and what we're doing. We're consumed with these powerful feelings of attraction, and it's intoxicating because there's this mix of dopamine and oxytocin, norepinephrine, and so we feel this powerful attraction, and yet it has a way it doesn't lend itself to us being very objective, and again, because we're naive and lacking understanding, and the fact that there's a lot of people out there, again, wounded. You think of the people who struggle with addictions to alcohol, other recreational drugs. I think it's something like about 15% of the population would fall into classification of cluster B personality disorders, which would include borderline narcissism and those Machiavellian tendencies, and so we find ourselves involved with someone, and they say and they do things that are really hurtful. They jerk us around. They're not able to be present to us, and we do meet our needs through relationships, and yet they just don't have the capacity to be there for us in that sense. Maybe they ghost us, or we form that attachment. They break off the relationship. They find out there's that infidelity, and they hook up with someone else, and that evokes, in many instances, excruciatingly painful emotions. We experience the sadness, the grief, the hurt, the overwhelming pain. But again, the fact that many people just never learn to work constructively with their emotions. So what happens is when we deny or disconnect from, suppress or numb ourselves out to those emotions, they freeze up in our bodies. They don't just go away. It's time itself doesn't heal the emotional wounds. We actually have to work with those emotions. We need to digest those lived experiences and our subsequent emotional responses. Again, when we fail to do so, we carry it in our bodies.
Got
And
it.
it has this profound deadening effect that there's a numbing and it diminishes our capacity to love and be loved.
Mhm.
And we experience these deeply wounding, even traumatic events in our relationships. And again, when we suppress them, it increases the likelihood that we attract more individuals who continue to reenact those patterns.
Right.
And,
Right.
and so
And
as we attract,
go ahead. You just got me thinking about my dating experience is that it not only do you attract people like that, but even if you don't, I think sometimes people are looking for it because I've, heard so many times, I hope you're not like my ex. She did this and that, or, oh, wait, that's something my ex said. And it's like, look, I'm not your ex. And you're so defensive, looking for similarities between the previous problems that you had that, you sometimes I think in addition to attracting people like that, that sometimes you see things that aren't even there because you're so gun shy from what happened to you before that you're unable to open up to other people and try again.
yeah, and I've done that in the past, and
Mm-hmm.
it's actually very commonplace because again, we go through these experiences where persons just, initially maybe they love bomb us and then uh, then it's like they're on a search and destroy mission. You have someone who has this narcissistic sociopathic tendencies and they eat you from the inside
Ooh.
and
Ooh.
leave you with this profound devastation or you think you have this lasting attachment, they dump you or they ghost you or whatever. And I see and hear all kinds of horror stories. I
I'm
live
sure.
some of them, as most of us have. And
But so you're saying to do, I get the part that it is devastating on us physically and mentally, but I want to make sure I understand what you're saying we can do about it. Like you're saying, do the work, learn to deal with conflict and so forth, but don't most people need a professional help to do that?
definitely,
Okay.
it's we can't do it all on our own. We need that intervention, that assistance, and there could be a number of different components to that intervention. There's in the beginning, I was at a complete loss. I was just bleeding emotionally. I was suffering pretty badly. So the first thing I did was reach out to a psychotherapist I knew from the community I lived in. And that was very helpful. Psychotherapy is a critically important part of many of our journeys. But I will say that psychotherapy gave me the intellectual understanding of the emotional wounding, the patterns I was enacting. Now, I kept going. I was reading. I would be devouring like clinical psych text, because because I wanted to understand my own wounding. Two, all these people that were coming to me with a wide range of issues in addition to the relationship, the hell and heartache. But I spent about 3 years in psychotherapy, but then again, it wasn't healing the actual trauma itself. And I had this overwhelming, all consuming emotion. And so I didn't have any guidance on this. This was being very intuitive. I just somehow knew to dive into the depths of the pain. And there are times where it was so excruciating, I would just be sitting there staring at the wall or just curled up in fetal position. But I would just keep breathing. I would descend into the depths of the pain itself and breathe from the middle of it. And sometimes it could take hours, but at a certain point, I could feel it breaking open and coming out of my body in waves. And as that happened, I could feel these profound emanations of warmth beginning to emerge from within. And that was starting to break apart, dissolve, transform these patterns that I carried. Now, this was so deeply entrenched, these patterns, and I was, for some years there, I was continuing to attract, forming attachments to women who were, again, disinterested, unavailable, abusive, and it was, there was this tremendous underlying fear of abandonment, like just waiting for the shoe to drop. And when I'd formed those attachments, it was just so hard to let go. I would just try and try to make the relationship work.
I'm glad you said that, because I want to form a question around that and then let you keep going on the topic. Yeah. Why do so many people struggle to let go of their attachment to a partner or someone who's not reciprocating their love, who's not treating them well? Why do we do that?
So much of it stems from the fact that we have not learned to work constructively with our emotions. And if we're not processing the emotions, like when someone says and does things that are really hurtful and we don't process these emotions, we internalize that. Maybe the relationship crashes and burns, but the pain is left in your body. All the impressions of those hurtful things that were said and done, along with all that emotional pain, it lives inside of us. And so with that, there's two things. Again, you tend to, maybe three things. One, it often shuts people down. There's this deadening. Right. A lot of people just swear off relationship. They give up on it. They put a wall up.
I just heard that 2 days ago from a friend. Yeah. She was like, I'm not dating anymore. I'm done. I'm like, you're 40. I don't believe that. But yeah, it's a natural reaction to something that hurt you so badly.
Definitely. You're afraid you're going to keep getting hurt. And then the other thing is you keep attracting those people that, did I use a little language here to just to
go for it? Yeah.
We keep attracting assholes.
Hello.
Yeah. And so you're more likely to attract someone who just keeps reenacting those deeply wounding experiences. And the other thing too is that, why is it so difficult to let go? When we hold all that emotion inside of us, the painful emotions, that maintains the unhealthy attachments. We need to digest those emotions. What I found is years ago when I was resisting the pain, and we do it different ways. We numb ourselves. We don't want to feel those emotions. We distract ourselves. Or we just try so desperately hard to make the relationship work.
Is numb ourselves self-medication? Is that what you mean by numb ourselves? Like drinking or weed or whatever people do?
Binge eating.
Okay.
Eat, overeat.
Comfort food. Gotcha.
Refined sugars, smoking cigarettes. And there's so many ways, Some people will even go on pharmaceuticals just because. Some people, maybe the pharmaceuticals, for some, especially if they're a danger to themselves or others, well, that's the best known solution we have. But there's a lot of people who are on antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds because they haven't learned to work with their emotions. The thing is that you don't register the extent of the pain, but you're not feeling it. But what I find is that a lot of people, when they're on these meds, or even if they're just self-medicating with alcohol or cigarettes or whatever, weed, or it's not allowing you to fully feel the feelings, to process, to digest them. And when you can't access your authentic emotional responses and thoroughly process or digest them, then it maintains those unhealthy attachments. So even though that person left you and maybe they're way back in the rearview mirror, they're fading out of you. There's part of you that's just like still, it's back there in the past. They're not coming back, but you can't quite let go. Or maybe you're in the midst of, that person's just jerking around and just saying, doing horrible things. And they're cheating on you. They're doing whatever. They're making a wreck of your life, because you're holding on to them and they're doing their toxic dance. But you can't let go because all that emotion that you hold within, it maintains that attachment.
Got it.
Now, dissolving the attachments and healing the deep emotional wounds. Ready to go into that?
Go for it. I was going to ask about ghosting because you had alluded to ghosting. So I understand hanging on to the attachments, but that's where I want to go. But you continue on that train of thought because this is good stuff.
We can come back around to ghosting too.
Okay.
So what I discovered on my own as I was going through all this hell and heartache was the importance of whatever we're going through, whether it's relationship and this practice has application in other areas of your life. But say you're in a relationship and that person is just not really present with you, doesn't have the capacity to love you, or not receptive, has the walls up, whatever. There's infidelity, or they're addicted to alcohol and other recreational drugs, or they're a narcissist, or just whatever it is that's going on. It's important that we're able to access our authentic emotional responses. And so one of the practices, and there are many variations that I developed over the years, but let me give you one here, is that you can bring that individual into the forefront of your awareness, see them, and feel their presence. Imagine as though they're directly in front of you. As you do so, how does it feel in your body? Not how you want to feel, but how does it authentically feel? Feelings can vary. Like on one hand, maybe starting out, you may feel that, I love, all those glowy feelings or something. You still have some of those feelings. That's probably why you're still attached to them. And maybe that's past. Maybe you think they're an asshole already, but either way, bring them fully into your awareness. And what do you actually feel? Start with what you feel. And is it I want to spend my life with them? Or is it sadness? Is it grief? Is it anxiety? Is it fear of abandonment? Is it hurt? The sense of betrayal. What do you honestly feel? That's one. And where are these feelings situated in your body? Are they in your chest cavity, down in your abdomen, in your solar plexus, further towards your back, in your throat? Where are the feelings? Bring as much awareness as you can. Dive into the depths of these feelings. Be fully immersed in them and breathe very softly, very deeply. Now, a lot of people tend to breathe very shallowly, like from the diaphragm up. And if breathing is shallow, that's going to impede your ability to process or digest these feelings. So make sure you breathe all the way down to your abdomen, so your belly's expanding, and also your rib cage also expands as slowly, deeply as possible. And understand that these wounds can run extraordinarily deep. And there are times where a lot of these painful emotions were coming up for me, and I'd be like, go on for days or weeks or even months, but I would just keep descending into the depth of what I was feeling and breathe with them. As time went on, I would cycle through things a lot faster. Sometimes in like 10 or 15 minutes, I'd get over someone or something. It's like, oh, well, whatever, bye.
It happened. We're done.
We're done. But this is a very critically important part of the healing process. And I recommend this for everyone, no matter what healing practices or interventions you do. If you're not processing or digesting your emotions, you're not going to get that far. You need to be able to do the deep level processing of your emotions.
Agreed.
Now, also, okay, this practice, and there are many variations, I've just given you one here, is it awakens your body and mind's own innate healing intelligence. Like when you get a cut or bruise and your body starts to repair that injury, and maybe if the cut's not too deep, after a week, you don't see a scar or the bruise clears up, it's gone, no evidence.
Right.
Yeah. So it's awakening the same innate healing intelligence. But we need to be realistic that there are limitations to our body and mind's healing intelligence. And that being said, that's why it's so important that we incorporate the most effective therapeutic interventions. As I said, psychotherapy can be an important component for many, but some other interventions, like we store a lot of these emotions, as I said, throughout the body. So deep tissue body work. If you, what I have found is that times when a relationship crashed and burned, and a lot of the sadness and grief would be held in my body, in the musculature, and as I received the body work, and these emotions would come flooding to the surface. And the fact that I could access the emotion and process them, that made it easier for me to go ahead and cycle through all that, all in heartache, come out the other side.
We're getting a little short on time, so if you can, what are some of the other methods without elaborating too much? Deep tissue body work. What are some other things we can do?
The most powerful interventions that I have found, and I've explored many, is the work that I did with some of the very powerful gifted healers, working with some of the healers like from Brazil and the Philippines that I've worked with. And what would happen is I could feel it transforming a lot of the suffering, the trauma, configurations I held within that caused me to reenact this traumatic wounding. But the fact that there were so few people working on this level, that was a big part of the motivation, where I went back and I started doing the vision quest, the 4 days and nights, alone in the mountains, no food, no water. And I'd feel that extraordinarily powerful presence descending into my body, and it would be enabling me to transform, transmute all this suffering, these lived experiences. I'd be digesting them, and all those highly charged emotions. I'd come out the other side, letting go of those unhealthy attachments and dissolving them. And over time, working with the practice I described, the interventions, and I worked myself out of, there was this evolving to healthier relationships, healthier attachments.
Excellent.
And so as I went through this process over years, what happened is over time, I was attracting individuals with whom I could form healthier, or co-create healthier and more meaningful, more deeply fulfilling relationships. The vision quest I described is far too intense for most people. Some can work up to it. But what I find is that because I've gone through this process all these years, I'm able to facilitate this process for others. The traditional Native American doctors act as conduits, allowing this extraordinarily powerful presence to work through them. And so I do the same for people. And as I work with people, they're digesting those lived experiences, the devastating breakup or divorce or ghosting, whatever craziness they went through.
Got it.
And as that happens, they let go of those attachments, and it creates healthier internal models, a healthier foundation through which they too can attract companions with whom they can co-create healthier,
which is what we all want. Yes. Healthy, happy, committed relationships.
Right.
So before we go, I looked at your page, your website, and you are a prolific writer, a lot of articles, blogs, and you also offer sessions, I believe, healing sessions and challenge, another type of session, challenge resolution. Yes,
session.
yes. So briefly, in the little time we have left, share about your services and how people can reach you online, Ben Oofana.
Yes, I can work with people remotely by phone, Skype, or WhatsApp, or Facebook Messenger. But now, because people all over the world reach out to me.
Wow.
Now, when I work remotely, I can teach the practices that I've developed. This is crucial. You need to learn this in order to heal these emotional wounds.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people tell me they feel that transmission of power. They feel that presence when I work remotely. But I will say, if at all possible, work with me in person, because the in-person sessions, when I'm there with you face to face, and I'm taking you through these practices,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a wide range, getting you deeper into your body, healing this emotional wounding, all that. And the practices are also homework for you to do as well to continue your continued
homework.
But when you work with me in person, there's the work that we do on the table. This is what I learned, where this traditional Native American doctor passed these gifts of healing on. And that continue to evolve through the Vision Quest. And so I allow this extraordinarily powerful presence to work through me. And it's going into, again, you're digesting those lived experiences, all that suffering, all this backlog of emotion, and you come out the other side and you feel much lighter. So, I could tell you much more. Reach out, give me a call. You go to my website, benoofana.com, BENOOFANA. So again, benoofana.com. There's a contact form. You can message me. I'll go ahead and give the Google Voice number. It's 332-333-5155. So you can reach out to me, and we can just get into it, share with me what's going on.
And begin the process of healing.
Yeah, if you're going through the breakup, divorce, whatever other heart-rending drama, there is a free ebook. You can download it, just gettingoveryourbreakup.com. Download the ebook. And now you could also have my latest articles and videos sent to your inbox. Hey, I'm also I have a YouTube channel, Instagram.
You're everywhere.
Yeah.
You're omnipresent. I love it. I love it. And I love it that you so freely share informative, uplifting, educational information to help people heal and become their personal best, because we share that passion for helping others. Thank you so much, Ben. This has been a really wonderful.
I'm thinking of real quick is that, a lot of people become so invested, there's this desperation, the search, like finding the one. But I would say as much as you can, actually you are the only one who you'll never lose or leave. It's like we come into this world alone, and so we intersect with people in our lives. And maybe you do find a special someone who could journey with you for decades, but eventually one or the other is going to pass on for the other. Most likely it works that way, but put the focus onto yourself, being your best you, evolving into your most authentic self, the steps that you need to take to heal your own emotional wounding and to live, like what is it you're here to do in this world? Because as you do so, you're far more likely to go through the transformation, heal and evolve and be in the right places at the right time to meet the person who will be the best match for you.
Fantastic. Way to close it out, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners for your time and support of this woman-owned indie podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and share for more like this. Until next time, be safe and be well. Thank you. And wasn't that a great program? Oh, love that episode. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Learn more about me on my website, drmoanderson.com. That's MOE. You can read book excerpts, watch videos, learn about my services that I offer, and book me for a speaking engagement. I'd love to talk with your group. And I'd love to work with you. So until the next time, review, renew, and renew. Thank you.